When I found Moocher written on my name tag at the family reunion, Mother laughed and said, "Well, it's true." When I said I every month, she told him, "Shut up. Don't steal your brother's achievements." So I said I'll never be involved with this again and left. At the end of the month. My name is Michelle Brown. I am currently 36 years old and employed as a financial analyst in the bustling heart of Manhattan. My career trajectory is on an upward path, and last year marked a significant milestone when I finally secured the condominium I had long desired. I might be called a successful person by those around me. However, whenever I am around my family, I invariably feel as though I am a rebellious 15-year-old girl once again. This feeling is particularly acute under the scrutinizing gaze of my mother. When I was nearly 12 years old, my parents underwent a tumultuous divorce. The cause was my father's affair with a woman who was, ironically, my mother's closest friend. The day the painful truth was revealed, my mother responded with hysterical tears and screams. In the days that followed, she secluded herself in her room, barely touching any food. During that period, many commented on how closely I resembled my father. We shared the same nose, the same eyebrows, and even laughed in the same manner. After the divorce, every time my mother looked at me, she must have been reminded of my father's betrayal. Even as a child, I was acutely aware of the subtle pain that dwelled in her eyes. "Michelle, you really do look just like your dad," she would say. This was never meant as a compliment. Her words were always laced with a trace of bitterness. Following the divorce, my father relocated far away. In the first few years, we met once a month, but gradually, we grew apart. Now our communication is limited to exchanging birthday cards. My mother remarried when I was 16 years old. My stepfather, Douglas, has a son, Anthony, from his previous marriage. He is 2 years older than me. After graduating from high school, Anthony spent 2 years dabbling in various part-time jobs and exploring what he called finding himself. Ultimately, he enrolled in college at the same time as I did. He went to a community college while I attended the economics department at a state university on a scholarship. The difference in our educational paths deepened the rift between us. After graduation, I started working at a financial institution on Wall Street while Anthony got a job at a local real estate company. Aware that my mother and Douglas were facing financial difficulties in their retirement, Anthony and I agreed to send them money. I sent $1,000 every month, and Anthony sent $200. However, Anthony secretly told my mother that all the money was coming from him. My mother completely believed this lie, thinking all the money was from Anthony. Although I had attempted to clarify that the bulk of it was from me, she dismissed the idea, insisting that Anthony would never lie about such a thing. Initially, this deception did not bother me. I was sending the money purely out of a desire to help her, not expecting any gratitude. But as time passed, this imbalance began to create a small wound in my heart. Whenever there was a financial emergency, my mother would call both Anthony and me. "Michelle, the car broke down. I can't afford the repair." "Michelle, unexpected medical bills have come up." "Michelle, the roof is leaking." Every time I sent money, the subsequent phone call would always end with her saying, "Anthony sent it all. He's such a good boy." Confronting Anthony yielded no change. He simply shrugged and remarked, "Mom prefers to think that way." Despite this, I continued to provide financial support quietly, continually reminding myself that I was not attempting to buy my mother's love. Today may very well be one of the most significant days of my life. There are sweat beads on my hands as I grip the steering wheel. The wine bottle in the back seat makes a small sound every time I stop at a light. It's as irregular as the beating of my heart. Only 10 more minutes until I reach my mother's house located in the suburbs of New York. I inhale deeply, preparing myself mentally. There is a family gathering today. Distant relatives will also be there for this once-a-year big event. It's my first time joining it in 3 years. The last time I was there was for Douglas's 60th birthday celebration. The unpleasant memories of that day come flooding back. At that time, I was talking about the success of a major project I had in Manhattan. My mother interrupted me then saying, "Michelle, you are always talking about herself. Have you ever thought about how Anthony would feel?" When I fell silent, Douglas added, "She's been like that since she was a child. Only thinks of herself." Embarrassed in front of all the relatives, I felt isolated. Afterwards, Anthony consoled our mother saying, "Don't worry about it, Mom," as if I had been the one who had caused her distress. When I arrive at my mother's house, several cars are already parked. I park my car in the farthest empty space and pick up the wine bottle. Checking my appearance in the mirror, I straighten my beige dress and black cardigan, a simple yet elegant attire. My hair, a straight bob style meticulously in the morning, is slightly disheveled by the wind. Taking another deep breath, I head towards the entrance of the house, which is already resonating with the lively chatter of relatives. As I open the front door, I was greeted by the sight of distant relatives' children running around. Laughter from the adults echoed from the living room. My mother appeared in the hallway. "Oh, Michelle. You've come," she said, her voice tinged with surprise. She must have sent the invitation as a mere formality, assuming I would prioritize work and not attend. "Yes. I received the invitation from Douglas," I said with a gentle smile. "I brought this," I continued, offering up the wine bottle. My mother took it, thanking me formally. "Everyone's already gathered. Your name tag is on the table by the entrance," she said before heading back to the kitchen. The reception was as lukewarm as I expected. I approached a small table near the entrance. Small name tags were neatly arranged there. I began searching for my name. When I found it, my heart sank. The tag read Michelle Brown, and beneath it in smaller letters was the word parasite. At first, I thought it was a mistake, but there was no mistaking my mother's handwriting. I stood frozen, staring at the name tag. Then a voice came from behind me. "Hey, Michelle." Turning around, I saw Anthony standing there. He wore his usual safe outfit, a light blue shirt paired with khaki chinos. "It's been a while," I said. "How are you?" "Managing. The real estate market is tough, but I'm getting by," he replied. He glanced at my hands. "You found your name, Tack." A flicker of guilt seemed to cross his face. "Is this some sort of humor for Mom?" I asked, keeping my emotions in check. Anthony just shrugged. "She's been a bit sharp lately, especially when she drinks," he said. "I see." I stared at the name tag again. All the alienation I'd felt since childhood came rushing back, showing off my school grades only to be met with a dismissive, "Well, that's to be expected." When I received a scholarship for college, my mother only said, "Good. It won't cost anything." When I shared news of a promotion, she changed the subject to "Anthony will be a manager soon too." I had never heard her say, "I'm proud of you." I took a deep breath and felt a resolve harden within me. Today would be a turning point. "Enough is enough. Are you okay?" Anthony asked with concern. "Yes, I'm fine." I smiled. "Let's go to the living room. I want to greet everyone." About 20 relatives had already gathered in the living room. Aunts, uncles, cousins, some I hadn't seen in years. I greeted each one politely. "Michelle, you've grown up well. I heard you're working in finance. Isn't that impressive? When are you getting married? You're of age, aren't you?" Typical conversations at a family gathering. I responded with a smile. I had tucked away the name tag in my bag. When it was time to eat, everyone gathered at the dining table. While serving food, my mother began to talk about Anthony's recent success. "Anthony sold the biggest property in town last month. Wasn't the commission incredible?" Anthony smiled modestly. "Well, it was average." Always so humble, my mother's face lit up with a beaming smile. "He also started going to the gym last month. It's great he's taking care of his health." I continued eating silently. The days of hungering for my mother's approval were long behind me. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. "How about Michelle?" Aunt Courtney asked. "How's life in Manhattan?" Before I could respond, my mother interjected. "She always seems so busy." "She hardly picks up the phone," she commented. "Working in investment banking is a battle against time," I explained. "But it's fulfilling. Last month, I led a major project to success and received a bonus." "You've become wealthy then," my mother remarked, setting her glass on the table. "But you don't have time to care for your family, do you?" A moment of silence followed at the table. "That's not exactly." "Oh, I forgot." My mother suddenly stood up. "I need to serve the dessert," she said, disappearing into the kitchen. Anthony sent me a look of pity, which I found hypocritical. He was complicit too. As the meal concluded and it was time for dessert and coffee, Douglas stood up, glass in hand. "I'm delighted that everyone could gather here today, especially those who traveled from afar," he began his formal speech. He spoke about the importance of family ties and proudly introduced Anthony's recent successes. My name was not mentioned even once. As everyone clapped after his speech, I slowly stood up, feeling my heart pounding. "May I say a few words?" I asked. My mother looked surprised. It was rare for me to speak publicly. "Of course," Douglas said, returning to his seat with a slight look of confusion. I lifted my wine glass and took a deep breath. "Thank you all for coming today. It's wonderful to see faces I haven't seen in a long while," I began. I raised my glass slightly. The last time I attended a family gathering was 3 years ago. Since then, much has changed. I've been promoted at work, purchased a condo unit of my dreams, and for the first time in my life, I felt proud of myself. People around the table listened quietly. My mother gripped her coffee cup with a stern expression. "But there's one thing that hasn't changed," I continued. "It's the discomfort I feel every time I come to this house." The air in the room was filled with tension. Today, when I found my name tag at the entrance table, it is labeled Parasite. I took the name tag out of my bag and placed it on the table. A few people leaned in and small gasps of surprise were heard. At first, I was hurt. "But now I see this as a turning point in my life," I stated, slowly lifting my glass. "Today, I would like to propose a toast to what may be our last reunion. The room fell into complete silence. Anthony's eyes were wide. My mother had gone pale. All these years, I've done many things in a bid to be acknowledged. Sending $1,000 a month was one of those things. What are you talking about? My mother interrupted. Anthony has. No, Mom, I said quietly. Anthony sends $200 a month. The remaining $1,000 has been from me for the past 5 years. Whispers of astonishment spread among the relatives. Anthony stared at the floor. But that's ending now. The last payment I made last month was the final one. And that's not all, I continued. I've also saved all the call records and remittance histories because somewhere inside, I knew a day would come when they'd be needed. My mother and Douglas exchanged glances. For the first time, fear appeared on Douglas's face. I met with the tax auditor yesterday. It seems there are many suspicious aspects concerning Douglas's tax returns over the past 5 years. What are you saying? Douglas stood up. That can't be possible. It is possible, Douglas, I said calmly. The IRS is very interested to learn that you've been declaring my monthly payments as business consulting fees to reduce your taxes, I explained. My mother looked at Douglas with a confused expression. What are you talking about? Douglas's face turned red. Sandra, I'll explain later. Explain to me now. My mother's voice trembled. Is what Michelle is saying true? The room fell silent. It's a joke, right? My mother asked with a trembling voice. A joke? I chuckled softly. About as funny as being called a parasite. I downed my glass in one go. And, Anthony, I turned to my brother-in-law. The authorities are also investigating your activities at the real estate company, particularly the suspicions of providing false information to investors. Anthony's face was drained of all colors. Michelle, what have you done? I've only told the truth, I said. I have all the evidence about the funds you swindled from the elderly last year. I accidentally discovered a few months ago that my client's grandmother had invested a significant amount in Anthony's company and lost the money. Upon investigating, I found several other victims. Using my financial industry knowledge, I had meticulously gathered details of Anthony's real estate transactions, collecting evidence of false investor presentations and document forgery. Anthony tried to stand in protest, but I raised my hand to stop him. That's enough. All the evidence has already been submitted to the authorities. You will be hearing from them within a few days. I picked up my bag and stood up. The meal was delicious. Goodbye. Then without looking back, I left the dining room. As I exited the house, I felt a strange lightness. It was as if I had been freed from a burden I had carried for years. I got into my car, started the engine, and began to drive back the way I came. A few days later, the expected developments began. The news reported a major fraud scandal at a local real estate company. Anthony's name and photo were displayed, revealing that he had targeted the elderly in investment scams for years. Anthony's fraud was well planned, targeting not only the elderly with investment scams, but also involving inflated real estate values and forged documents. A week later, the tax audit against my mother and Douglas intensified. They had declared my payments as business income, avoiding significant taxes and also recording various fictitious expenses. My phone was flooded with furious messages. From Anthony, an email full of indignation asking, "Why did you do this?" From my mother, accusations that I had ruined the family. From Douglas especially, a message filled with selfishness. Michelle, what were you thinking? As a daughter, it's your duty to support the family financially. Do you understand what I've done for you? I let you live under my roof, provided meals, and ensured you never had to worry about tuition. I've never done anything wrong to you. Yet why involve me because of your grudge against your mother? Reporting us to the tax authorities is a betrayal to the family. Just because your real father abandoned you, it's wrong to take that anger out on me. Remember, whatever happens now is your responsibility. I ignored them all. 3 months later, the legal proceedings were concluded. Douglas received a substantial fine and a 3-year suspended sentence for tax evasion. My mother was acquitted, their house was seized, and their relationship was shattered. Their reputation in the community plummeted, and people began to avoid them. I observed all these developments from a distance. I felt no guilt. This was justice, the rightful conclusion to years of abuse and exploitation. A year after Anthony's trial, I received a request from him for a visit. After much consideration, I decided to visit him in prison where he was serving a 6-year sentence. Initially, I intended to refuse. What meaning could there be in having a conversation with him? However, something held me back. I wanted a definitive conclusion. I wanted to look him in the eye and understand why he and my mother had hurt me for so long. Perhaps most importantly, I wanted to prove to myself that they no longer controlled me. He appeared in his prisoner's uniform, looking gaunt. The confident expression he once had was gone. "Thanks for coming," he said with a tired voice. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping my emotions in check. "I wanted to apologize," he began, but his expression quickly changed. But, actually, this is all your fault, isn't it? I was taken aback. If you hadn't been in such a prestigious finance job, I wouldn't have committed those frauds, he frowned. Seeing you always being the top student and praised by everyone, I wanted to be acknowledged too. You're blaming me for becoming a criminal? I said in disbelief. Why did you commit fraud when you weren't short on money? Because it was easy, he shrugged. And Mom always protected me. She always stood by my side, no matter what. So, you defrauded elderly people because of that? They all have insurance, he tried to justify. And they're going to die soon anyway. So young people like me can make better use of that money, he added. I was speechless at his words. This was my brother-in-law. This was the person I had dealt with as family for years. Michelle, to be honest, if you hadn't brought up this issue, I would still be free, he said resentfully. You betrayed me. Betrayal? I raised my voice. What about when you told Mom that the money was yours, denying my contributions? That was just a joke, he said with an insincere smile. Mom believed it. That's all. You're the lowest. I stood up. Hey, Michelle. He suddenly changed his tone. Could you lend me some money? I need it for prison, and I want to consult a lawyer too. I stared at him. You still don't understand, do you? I said quietly. Let's end this. Goodbye, Anthony. His face contorted. Michelle. Wait, I really need it. Just a few $100s. I left the prison with his cries behind me. 6 months after visiting Anthony, the doorbell at my home rang. It was an unexpected visitor. When I opened the door, there stood my mother, looking exhausted. Gone was her confident demeanor, dressed in cheap clothes, her hair unkempt, deep bags under her eyes. She held a grubby bag in her hand. Michelle, she said with tearful eyes, can we talk? I hesitated for a moment but let her in. In the living room, she sat down and tremblingly took a photo from her bag. It was a picture of me when I was young. We've lost everything. Our home, our savings, our friends, and, I asked calmly, I need help. She looked down. I have nowhere else to go. I've separated from Douglas. He's moved to another state. What do you expect from me? Could you possibly allow me to stay here for a short while? Just until I can secure employment and find my footing once again. I might also need a small amount of financial assistance during this time. I gazed at her with deep intensity. Gone was the stern mother I knew, replaced by just a tired middle-aged woman. Her clothes were unremarkable, her nails bitten down. A heavy silence hung in the air before I finally broke it. I need to ask you one thing. Did you ever genuinely love me? My mother looked surprised and her eyes widened. Then tears started to fall. I thought I did, but you looked so much like your father. Every time I saw you, it reminded me of his betrayal. And Anthony was always such a sensitive child. You were strong. Why are you asking me for help? I asked quietly. You're my last hope, she replied. And you ask for help after calling me a parasite? She began to sob, her shoulders shaking. I'm your mother. Blood alone doesn't make a family. I pointed at the door. Go home. I won't do to you what you did to me, I said calmly. But I won't help you either. Figure it out yourself. My mother stared at me dumbfounded. Her face was a mask of incomprehension. Michelle. Goodbye, Mom. I opened the door and let her out. She seemed about to say something more, but I closed the door. Looking through the window, I observed her remain standing there momentarily before she began to walk away slowly without purpose or direction. I felt no emotion, just a refreshing clarity as if waking from a long nightmare. 5 years have passed since then. My life has changed in many ways. I was promoted to vice president at work, built new friendships, and realized a long-held dream by founding a non-profit organization. It supports people trying to escape economic abuse. I had cut off all contact with my mother, stepfather, and Anthony. Occasionally, I hear about their situations. My mother is living alone in a small apartment. Douglas apparently has a low-paying job in another state. Anthony is still in prison. One day, a letter arrived at my office. It was written in a familiar handwriting. It was from my mother. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, there was a brief message written in a rough, hurried handwriting. Michelle, I will never forget how you destroyed our family. I raised you as your mother, and you are a heartless person with no gratitude. Anthony was always much kinder than you. Imagine my misfortune having a cold-blooded daughter like you. Your father was the same. He betrayed me and then left. You were just like him. You ruined my life and felt nothing. May God judge you, Sandra. I quietly threw the letter into the trash can. Now freed from the past's curses, there is no need for me to look back. This is my new life. A life stronger and freer, born from past pain.